Welcome back to the show, everybody. Joining me now is our power panel. I love this. They're here to discuss and maybe debate some of the day's biggest stories. With me is Alex Wagner. She's a reporter for the Huffington Post and also an MSNBC analyst. Very powerful. And Ari Berman, contributing writer for The Nation magazine and the author of Herding Donkeys, The Fight to Rebuild the Democratic Party and Reshape American Politics, and Simon Rosenberg, president and founder of the New Democrat Network. All right. Let's get it on, guys. First question. Will Democrats agree to cut Medicare during budget negotiations? Yesterday, Vice President Biden signaled that such big-ticket items might actually take a hit. Let's take a look at it first.
So I've made it clear today revenues are going to have to be in the deal. And everybody knows that at the end of the day, we're going to have to make some really tough decisions on some of the big-ticket items. But I think we're in a position where we will be able to get to well above $1 trillion pretty quick in terms of what would be a down payment on the process.
Alex, I'm going to start with you. First, does this indicate that we have not actually done any tax increases yet, that the revenue side is not on the table yet, that the whole $1 trillion is in spending cuts?
This is the Democrats' effort to get some skin in the game on the question of entitlements. But fundamentally, Cenk, it is to get the Republicans to the table on tax increases. You know, the Republicans have been, I think, pretty masterful in terms of framing this debate and really getting the Democrats to come out and say, okay, we got to tackle Medicare. For a long time, the White House said entitlement programs are not immediate the economy. They've changed course on that. But you know, given the manna from heaven that is, you know, the Paul Ryan GOP Medicare plan, there is no way the Democrats are going to come anywhere close to tackling the program in the same way that the Republicans have, which is say create a voucher program. No, I know not in the same way.
I know not in the same way. But Simon, I want to ask you about that, because look at what Steny Hoyer said. He said, I have said it over and over again. Everything needs to be on the table. Medicare is one of the things that needs to be on the table. Well, isn't that going to totally blow their advantage that they just got and we had evidence of in the 26th district race?
Well, we're clearly in the early stages of these negotiations. I think, as Alex said, one of the most interesting things that I keep wondering about these negotiations is how can there be any negotiations if the Republicans are saying that revenue increases are off the table? I mean, there's no way to have a serious conversation about reducing the deficit unless there's substantial new revenue into the government. And so
no,
Senator,
I know, but that's obvious. Simon, look, I know. Yeah. Look, they're tough guys, and they always want to say, oh, yeah, we're never going to raise taxes. Okay, that's fine. Then we don't have a deal, right? I get that. But how about our side? I mean, when you talk about progressives saying, hey, we should cut Medicare, does that make any sense given what's happened?
I think if the deal that the Democrats strike this year includes large, substantial cuts to Medicare as opposed to reforms that will save money, and I think these are different things, because I think there's a lot of modernization in health care in general that could still get done that wasn't done in the health care bill last year. I think if there are cuts as opposed to modernization, I think it could be trouble in the Democratic base. There's no doubt about that.
Ari, is there a real difference between cuts and reform of Medicare?
Well, there could be. There could be, for example, letting an independent Medicare advisory board address this issue, or there could be Paul Ryan's voucher program. I mean, that's a pretty big deal right there. And what Republicans are doing, they are begging Democrats to bail them out on this issue. They realize they made a huge mistake embracing Paul Ryan's plan, which we saw play out last night in the city. And now they're saying to the Democrats, come on, throw us a lifeline. And to me, it would just be crazy if Vice President Biden and the Democrats did that, if they let Republicans get off the hook for what they've already voted on.
Ari, that is absolutely correct. If they throw them a lifeline and say, all right, we'll help you cut Medicare, oh, what are you doing? That's crazy. All right, but that's my opinion. Let's go to the next question. Why do Republicans want to attack Elizabeth Warren so bad, and should President Obama give her a recess appointment? Now, remember, Warren testified on Capitol Hill yesterday, during which point she got a confrontation with a Republican representative, Patrick McHenry, about what time she was allowed to leave. How absurd. Warren said McHenry's staff agreed to let her go by a certain point, but McHenry said he had made no such agreement, and basically called her a liar. Let's watch that first.
We had an agreement.
You had no agreement.
We had an agreement for the time this hearing would occur.
You're making this up,
Ms. Warren.
You're simply, this is not the case. This is not the case.
Mr. Chairman, you just did something that I'm trying to be cordial here, but you just accused the
She's
lady
accusing
of
me
lying.
of making an agreement that I never
I think
made.
you need to clear this up with your staff.
Alex, why do the Republicans hate Elizabeth Warren so much? Not hate personally, but as in getting that position. They don't want her to get it under any circumstances.
Right, yeah, that was awkward. They don't like, I think they actually don't like her personally either, Cenk. I mean, look, Elizabeth Warren was largely the architect of the Consumer Protection Financial Bureau. And the Republicans have not liked her since the beginning. And that's not just because of what she's trying to do on Wall Street and reform banks. I mean, the housing industry doesn't like her. She was releasing some reforms for mortgage documents, and they don't like that. They think it stifles innovation on the mortgage side. I mean, no one on...
Here's what I want. Here's what I want. I want innovation in the financial industry.
Jane, can I jump in for a second? Because I was at this hearing yesterday and I covered it, and it was incredibly surreal, but it wasn't surprising because Republicans have been attacking Elizabeth Warren and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau for a very long time. They attacked it during the Dodd-Frank debate, and they're attacking it now because the people that give the Republican Party the most money, the biggest banks, the payday lenders, the mortgage brokers, all of those people don't want to be regulated. They don't want the new Consumer Bureau to regulate them, and that's why these attacks are happening.
Should he do a recess appointment? Should President Obama say, all right, well, apparently they're not going to confirm anybody anyway. The Republicans have said that. Why not put her in?
He has no choice but to do a recess appointment because Republicans in the Senate have already said they won't confirm anybody, not just Elizabeth Warren, anybody without changes to the Bureau, which the Obama administration is not going to agree to.
Simon,
so a recess appointment is
recess appointment?
Yeah, and I think what's the big mistake tactically that the Republicans are making is the more they attack her, the more the president has to appoint her, the more that he has to keep her, because it looks like he's giving in to the Republicans and the banks. Otherwise, if they had just left this alone, this may have been, the president may have had a choice. He doesn't have a choice anymore. He's got to appoint her.
Well, I hope you guys are right. I would love it if he did a recess appointment, and if he has no choice, in my book, that's fantastic. Put her in. She's the one that fights for all of our consumers. One last question for you guys. Is the GOP war on the middle class backfiring? Look at this new poll on Governor Rick Scott. It's got him at 29% approval rating with 57% disapproving of the job he's doing as governor. I have a bold prediction. I don't think he's going to make it out of a first term. I think somehow he's going to get thrown out of office. Am I crazy, Alex? Go.
No. Well, I mean, getting thrown out of office is one thing. I think, look, of that, in that same poll, I think it was 54 or 50% of the voters thought that his budget plan was unfair. And I think that that's something the Republicans are going to have to work on, is this idea that the people that got us mess are the rich, and the people that are bearing the burden of it disproportionately are the poor and the working class. And when you're saying to workers in Florida, you're going to have to take parts of your salary and put them forward to your pension, and you're going to slash education spending by $2.5 billion, it feels like it's unfair. And the Republicans thus far have not sold the country and Floridians a package that I think is palatable to them.
Ari, will you go as far as me? Will he not make it out of the first term?
Well, he should have never been governor in the first place, Cenk. This was a guy who, before he was governor, ran the nation's largest for-profit hospitals and was accused and pled guilty to $1.7 billion in Medicare and Medicaid fraud. It was the largest healthcare fraud settlement in history. Somehow, Floridians elected him, but almost instantaneously, they didn't like the guy. And maybe they should have looked a little bit closer at who they elected before they actually decided to put him in the governor's office.
Can I just jump in?
Absolutely. Last word.
What's amazing is that Republican numbers all across the country are tanking. The congressional generic is already showing substantial movement. What's happening with Rick Scott is similar to what's happening to the National Republican brand. It's happening very quick, and I think what's happened is the American people realize the Democrats want to give them more, the Republicans want to give them less. They're not happy about it, and it's having a very significant impact across the country. The Republicans are in trouble very early, and I think one of the great stories you're going to be covering is how much these Republican presidentials are trying to distance themselves from the early Paul Ryan politics of this Congress.
Oh, no question.
It's going to be one of the great stories we're all going to be following in the months ahead.
Simon, you end on a completely correct note. Governor Christie's in a little bit of trouble. He's lost 7 points. Kasich's in massive trouble. Walker's in trouble. They're all in trouble.
They're all in trouble.
Great panel tonight. We appreciate Alex Wagner from Huffington Post, Simon Rosenberg from New Democrat Network, and, of course, Ari Berman from The Nation. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Cenk.
Thanks.